What if I told you the secret to making your packaging designs go from this to this is number 5?
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now you might be thinking, how? Well, to discover why this number is so important and how it can help you become a better designer, we need to embark on a creative journey where we'll be designing packaging for a floristry, and in the process, we'll uncover the 5 essential stages every professional packaging design process must have. Buckle up and get ready to take your packaging game to new heights. The first step on this journey to product packaging success is the discovery call. Now here it's essential to find out as much information about the project as we can and exactly what it is the client wants. So let's jump on a call. P.S. Because this is a fictional brand, Erin, an amazing designer who is part of our team here, is going to be filling in the role of the client. So in terms of the style, is this going to branch off the original branding? And do you have any ideas on kind of how you want the packaging design to look?
For the packaging, we want to keep it very much consistent with the original brand identity. We want the packaging to show the liveliness of the brand, so we're open to your ideas on this.
In terms of the packaging, have you already sourced the manufacturer? If not, don't worry about this, I can totally do this, but you will actually need to supply me with the packaging dimensions.
Yeah, we've sourced the manufacturer. I'll email over the dieline template they supplied after the call.
Oh yeah, that's great. Just one last thing, could you confirm the deliverables?
So it'll be a 1 mailer box with a full colour print, so the inside and out designed.
So from that call, I took away 3 important pieces of information that's going to help inform me throughout this whole design process. And they are: the packaging needs to match the brand's existing style and tone of voice. They have a dieline template already sourced, and the packaging will be a cardboard mailer box for the flowers to be delivered in. Now we're more informed on this project and know what the client wants, it's time for the second stop on this journey, and this stage is all about strategy. Now, before any design work begins, we need to gather inspiration and do some competitor analysis. The first thing I'm going to do is research what the client's main competitors are doing when it comes to packaging, so we can identify a gap in the market and create packaging that stands out. From this research, I discovered the following things. Most competitors use brown cardboard boxes and a one-color print, either in black or white ink. Now, a lot of competitors' branding is very dainty, which reflects in the packaging, making them look very similar. And lastly, they tend to use just one logo on the outside of the packaging. Now we have a good idea of what the current market looks like, it's time to find some inspiration, and for me, this means spending some time on Pinterest, sieving through some packaging, and putting together a rough mood board. Here I can steer the design style and start to figure out a direction for the packaging. It's now time to stop off at our next stage in this journey, and this is one that tends to confuse a few people, so pay close attention. This is the stage where you source a dieline template, and for those who don't know, this is a diagram that shows all the cut lines and folds of a package in a flattened form. For this project, and for the majority, the client will most likely have a packaging supplier, meaning they need to source the dieline from the manufacturer and provide it to you. But sometimes businesses, especially startups, won't have one and may ask you to sort it. Now, if you agree to this, you will have to communicate sizes with a supplier you have sourced, and then they will supply you with a custom dieline template. If you do this, make sure it is reflective of the project price that you charge, as this requires extra time and work. So now we know what the client wants, have identified a design direction, and have sourced a dieline template, it's time to move on to stage 4, which is the design. Now, the first place I always start is the background. Now, whenever you work with a dieline template, it's always best to create an outer bleed around this to account for any slight movement when printed. Now, in order to do this, select the dieline template, head to Object, Path, Offset Path, and then for this, I usually set this to around 10 millimeters, and then I will press OK, and then we can just use the shape builder tool, which is over to the left-hand side, and I can just connect and unite all of this together, creating one solid shape. So I want to keep this packaging really nice and light and uplifting and really lively to tell the brand story. And therefore, I'm going to stay clear of the darker colors, which are the green and red from their color palette. And I'm actually going to go with the orange, the pink, and the cream, so we can keep that really nice, lively, modern, uplifting feeling that I feel like this packaging should have. So a lot of the competitors keep the box neutral and toned down. They also use the brown cardboard and they also print their logo in black and white. Now this is where Lively Bloods can really stand out and show their personality. So we're going to be printing in a full color to show the lively side of the brand, and therefore I'm going to use the color pink as the background to really show the vibrancy. Next is the logo placement, and this is going to be important because I want it to be the focal point of the box. Now instead of placing this in the center just like everyone else, I'm going to place it in the middle of the front fold down at the bottom, so when it's being opened there will be interaction and movement within the logo, which then fits in with the brand's personality of being disruptive and lively. So I'm actually going to leave the outer packaging for a moment because I'm unsure on the direction whether I want it to be packed full and overcrowded or keep it nice and minimal. But what I do know is the inside of the box, I want it to be just packed with fun, I want it to be overcrowded, and I want the customers to be hit with that sense of happiness from the design and the flowers. So we've got work to do. So to create all of these lively feelings, I'm actually going to add to this brand. So I'm going to be drawing some illustrations on the top side of this box. Now these will match the whimsical feel whilst also including some visuals or flowers, which fits in perfectly with this type of business. So I've grabbed an image from Pexels, which is free for commercial use, and I'm going to use this to base the one illustration around. Now I want to illustrate a person blowing a flower and petals coming off of this to represent the movement and liveliness within this design. So to draw this illustration, I am using the Mighty Pencil tool, and I am just clicking down, dragging, and then we're going to line up with the original path that I created. And I like to use a reference image so I can get the rough layout designed, and then I can go in and adjust the style to fit with the brand. Now a little tip here is in the pencil tool settings, if you double click on the pencil tool, I've got this set to fill new pencil strokes, which basically means as soon as I draw a path, it will immediately fill with color, help speeding up my design process. So I am going to draw around the main features that I see, and first I'm going to start with the head. We're going to go around the chin, around the lips, around the nose, and then we're going to join back up with that original path. Now something to look out for is if you've got your pencil tool settings set to really smooth, it basically means that sometimes when you draw, it will create a smooth line. So I'm going to actually adjust this and bring this down one because we're running into issues where I'm drawing, but it's being too smooth and drawing it too perfectly for me, which is not what we want. So I'm going to send this to the back by pressing Command and bracket, and then I'm going to change the color to pink, so now that the head sits nicely behind the hair. Now the issue that I think I'm going to run into next is there being just two color combos, but I really do like the orange and the pink together. Now the only issue is that the head and the clothing now looks like they're attached together, and it's kind of giving like a really thick neck and not looking like a good silhouette. So what I think I'm going to do, we're going to actually split up the illustrations and create gaps between each color. So we're going to have to actually adjust the illustrations that we have there, kind of form them around one another. I think this will create a nice whimsical feel and also fit in with the flowers, the petals falling, and there being kind of individual layers to the flowers. So we're going to go with that direction, and hopefully we'll create a really cool pattern. So the feature of this illustration has pretty much been drawn, and I prefer this version so much better to the original silhouette that was just all kind of one color. It breaks it up really nicely, and now I can start drawing some of the flowers being blown off, the petals being blown, and create that movement within this design. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just start drawing some of the petals and flowers, and we'll create some really nice movement within this design and hopefully create that impact that I want the customer to feel when they open up the packaging of the design and the flowers. An hour later, and I have created something that I think captures that feeling I wanted. There's movement, there's flowers, it fits in with the brand's personality, there's liveliness, and I think I've managed to capture that through the illustration and the scene that I have created. I also tried out a few different layouts to see what works and what doesn't. I mixed up the illustrations, I changed the color, and it's always good to be experimenting with your packaging layout and not just going with that first idea that you have. So I purposely left this section of the packaging empty so important information could go here. Now to make sure that I'm sticking to the brand guidelines, I'm going to ensure I use the brand fonts to keep it consistent with that existing brand identity and within the printed materials. So here I'm going to write the instructions of what the customer should do with their flowers when they receive them and how to actually take care of them. Now I think the position of where this information is going to go is perfect because the customer removes the flowers, they're instantly going to see the instructions, meaning that they can't be missed. Now I'm actually going to use, I think, the orange color here, as it is a lot easier to read than the pink, which is always important when you're trying to deal with text and color. You never want to put important information in a color that can be painfully hard to read because, quite frankly, no one's going to read it. So I think I'm finished with the inside part of the box now. I'm going to leave the bottom section cream because the flowers will sit here. Now if I continued the pattern down into this, I think it would be way too busy and it would take away from the main focus of the flowers. Back to our front design. Now I was thinking of leaving this really minimal and toned down so that when you open up the box, you're instantly hit with all of that liveliness. I think I'm going to try the illustrations on the outside too. So I'm going to drag them over from the inside of the box and I'm going to actually place them on top of the logo type and the front of the box. And I'm going to just remove some bits so that they can start forming around the logo type and actually show that the flowers are growing, they're forming around, they're creating that liveliness. And I think this might work quite nicely because when we did that competitor analysis, a lot of the competitors were keeping the box really nice and plain, toned down to obviously match their brand's personality. But Lively Buds is a completely different floristry. They're lively, they're outgoing, and they really want to show this within the packaging. So I feel like instantly showing that is going to really work for this business. Illustrations have been finalized and I'm so glad I added it to the outer box. The only thing that I'm unsure on, and maybe you can comment below and let me know which one works better, is the color. So I'm either going to leave it as the cream or I'm going to use the orange. Now the orange and the pink contrast really nicely together, but I do think the cream kind of just stands out a little bit better, but I will be able to see within the next stage. The final last thing that I added was some text on the front flap, so if a consumer takes a picture of the box for their socials, others can clearly see their website and social media so they know exactly where to purchase or to find this business, which is really important. I also added a sentence to the back of the box that says things are looking a little lively inside to match the brand's tone of voice. It also hypes that person up and be intrigued to know what is inside the box. The design is done, but there's actually one thing I need to check before moving on to the last stage, and that is the practicality of this design. This can be really difficult to visualize as 2D, so this is where I like to use mockups. They provide a simple and easy way to see your design on similar packaging to the real thing. Now I source all of my mockups from the sponsor of today's video, Inverted Elements, where they have over 28,000 editable mockups that you can download. And a good mockup is really important because they play an even more important part in the last stage of our design journey. So it's time to present to the client, and this can be broken down into two parts. The first is putting together mockups, which we have already done. This showcases real-life examples to the client, further selling them on your work. And part two is explaining your design decisions. Now I normally do this in a presentation alongside the mockups, but if you struggle to come up with the words to explain your design decisions, watch this video here where I redesign packaging in just 5 minutes and explain my design decisions as I go.